Hey everyone, it's been over 2 minutes, and along with a bunch of other people, I didn't get raped yet. Hi, I'm Diana Davison, and today I want to talk about the motives behind false rape allegations. I'm going to start with 3 false accusers, and the first one comes from a text message in the book Campus Rape Frenzy. I'm going to put a link below. Fabulous book. Everyone needs to read it. So this is a text message from an angry ex-girlfriend at USC explaining to her ex-boyfriend why she was going to make a false rape allegation. In a twisted way, I want to gain happiness from knowing you're not doing okay. And I'm frustrated that you're doing way better than I am when I deserve happiness more than you. In court, if an accused claims that they were the target of a vindictive ex, well, feminists denounce that as a rape myth or stereotype. But these words, the ones on the screen here, the ones I just read, captured on text message, they came from the woman herself. See how that works? Just hashtag believe when there's no motive, but denounce any motive as a myth. But we don't always have a motive. Sometimes there isn't a clear motive. In order to discover them, you have to investigate. And that's an increasing problem because police are either being prevented from or refusing to investigate when there's an allegation involving sexual assault. But we can investigate, and sometimes it's really simple. Stunningly simple. Meet Terri Morris. Terri is a diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. She told police that. She claimed that she was raped by a cop in Oklahoma City, so we want to know if she has any motive to lie about that. So at the time she made the allegation, police were actually attending a property because they'd been phoned that a woman was destroying a man's car. Couple of things here. She said that the man was her boyfriend and that he was cheating on her. So the guy explained that he'd been seeing her briefly, but they'd broken up and he now had a new girlfriend, but she wouldn't accept that. Later on, police were called again because somebody was banging at another person's door and wouldn't leave. Turns out it was Terri. And she said, well, this is her place. No, it was actually her ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend's place. So let's play guess the motive. Obviously, Terri's trying to avoid arrest. The police are trying to approach her, and she's saying, I don't trust cops because a cop raped me before. She's high on crack and doesn't even know who her boyfriend is. Somehow, Oklahoma City's Detective Rocky Gregory couldn't see any motive. Yeah, Rocky still had this case open 3 weeks later and eventually pinned this accusation on somebody who didn't match her description and wasn't even in the location. But alright, here's one that's a little bit trickier. Meet Jannie Ligons. Isn't she lovely? In June of 2014, 58-year-old Grandma Ligons claimed that a police officer pulled her over at about 2 a.m. for no reason. And then he made her expose her breasts, pull her pants down, and he put his penis in her mouth for about 10 seconds before letting her go. She was crying and hysterical.
In my mind, he was going to kill me.
Now, things we can try and verify. Jannie Ligons said that the officer made her put her hands on top of his car when he pat-searched her. She also says the officer later put his hands on top of his car. No. Forensics checked the car just hours later and they found no fingerprints, no DNA on the outside or the inside of the car. She also says that the officer unzipped his fly, whipped his penis out, and put it in her mouth. Yeah, they actually did a rape kit on this woman within an hour of the incident and found no DNA. And again, no DNA in the car. And her DNA was never found on the officer's person. In addition, the officer in question was wearing compression underwear. That's so that he can strengthen his legs if he's got to go and chase somebody. And this underwear does not allow for stealthy ninja penis action. Ligons also claims the officer pulled up next to her car, and when he looked in, saw a single black woman. That's when he fell behind and pulled her over. Nope. Ligons was driving a car, this is her car, with illegally tinted windows, and in an unlit area of the road at night, there is no way that the officer could have seen into her car. Ligons claimed that she was on her way to her daughter's house, and she told News 9 that the officer, after this incident, actually followed her all the way home.
Says he followed her to her daughter's house and then took off.
Just thought you needed a break from the buzzer there. So there is grainy videotape of this traffic stop, and it shows clearly that the officer did a U-turn and left before she did. So that was an outright lie. Also, when she was pulled over, Ligons was in the right curb lane, and she needed to be 2 lanes over to make the left turn leading to her daughter's house. Finally, Jannie Ligons says the officer picked up and moved her cell phone. Nope, forensics didn't find any prints on her phone, so that's O for everything. Every single checkable thing that she said in her story turned out to not support her story. But super sleuth Detective Kim Davis decided that this allegation must be true because she had no motive to lie. But the only motive that Davis investigated was whether or not she was trying to get out of a ticket. That is the only motive that a sex crimes detective can think of for a false allegation. That's how good our sex crimes cops are now.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's put on our inspector caps here and see if we can figure out what happens. I'll give you a little bit more information. So, money is an obvious problem for these people. Jannie Ligons and her fiancé of 20 years had both been evicted from their place for non-payment of rent. As a result, they had moved in with her daughter, Marisha. Marisha also had her boyfriend living there, who was a convicted felon, and 2 small children. So you've got 4 adults and 2 small children living in a small 1-bedroom apartment. Well, this allegation was made in June of 2014. She'd been living there for about 7 months in very awkward circumstances. And by May 2015, her daughter Marisha also got evicted for non-payment of rent.
The apple farm hasn't been all that profitable lately.
But that doesn't explain why Jannie Ligons was crying and hysterical and seemed like she was in a panic. I think I have an idea. 1. Jannie Ligons, when she was pulled over, told the officer that she hadn't taken any drugs, she hadn't been drinking, and all she had were prescription medication in her purse. And it was hydrocodone, she said. And when the officer checked, he found a few bottles of prescription medication. 2. Oklahoma happens to be the #1 state for illegal prescription drugs. 3. Jannie had no current prescriptions and told Kim Davis that no, she didn't have any prescription drugs with her. 4. The guy that Jannie Ligons had been visiting until 2 a.m. was completely unknown to her fiancé of 20 years.
So, resorting to drug dealing now,
5. Well, Jannie was not on her way home, and she didn't get to the location she intended on going to with those prescription bottles. 6. The street value of hydrocodone, get ready, is $5 to $10 per pill. So if she's got like a few, we're talking at least 3 bottles of this in her purse. Well, I'm going to say you can do the math, but it's got to be at least $1,000 worth of illegal drugs. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't for her own use.
Just give me my drugs, shitface!
7. When Jannie Ligons got to her daughter's house, she thought that the police officer had taken her phone. They eventually found it later, but when she arrived back at her daughter's house, she said the police officer had taken her phone. 8. The phone may have contained text messages or contact information for where she got these prescription drugs.
Shut it down! Code red! Burn the evidence and run!
9. Instead of calling 911 or going to the nearest police station, the main one that was actually open, they drove all the way to Spring Lake where they figured this officer was based so they could physically attend the location to physically recover the phone.
Applejack, calm down!
And number 10, Jannie develops a rape story to explain her panic over the phone and also potentially, to explain why she didn't show up at the location that night where she was supposed to go. I am pretty sure that Jannie did not have the money to pay for all those illegal drugs just for her own use.
How could I have done anything wrong?
Now, the media sold Jannie Ligons as an innocent old grandma who didn't do nothing wrong. Well, she claims that she's out playing dominoes with a complete stranger till 2 in the morning, eventually admits that she might have had a little bit of pot. It goes from 2 joints to 2 puffs. Her story kept changing, and every single witness in court contradicted each other. Because the cops took no interest, 0 interest in possible illegal prescription drugs, and that prolific trade going on, anyone thinking about the fentanyl crisis right now, they missed their chance to possibly catch some major illegal drug dealing going on right underneath their nose. It's shocking. So despite nothing matching in her evidence, anything they could check did not support her story, sex crimes detectives #believe. Insanely, because they could only imagine one possible motive to lie about rape. Well, as disturbing as all this is, there is some good news, and that's there's now an organization to help out the falsely accused. That's the Lighthouse Project, my project. Link is below.